Hello, confirmation student. So I'm sitting down to work my way through providing you with the PowerPoints and the class sessions that we started this year with. I'm going to walk through at the very beginning some introductory materials that might be familiar to you depending on when you're jumping into this confirmation journey. But just in case you're at the very beginning, that's how we're going to do it. Here are some basic reasons why we're about confirmation. Not meant to just be one extra piece of homework in your life, not meant to be just one extra class, but it's an important part of our faith journey. One of the things that we're aiming to do is to learn. That's one of the basic things that we do in confirmation. We make sure that we have a solid foundation of knowledge, stuff that we know about our faith lives, stuff that we know about God, stuff that we know about our relationship to God, stuff that we know about the Bible as the source book for what we know. We're also here to build relationships. Even though we're here to learn, we're here to gain information and to gain understanding. At its very core, the faith is not about info. There is stuff that you need to know, but at its core, the faith is about relationships. That relationship is primarily you and God, but also we're here to build a relationship amongst other members of our church family and relationship between me and you. I hope that during our confirmation journey for a little more than 2 years or however you're doing it, that you and I get to know each other better, and together we get to know God and his word for us better. We're also aiming to grow in faith. Confirmation is, for us, an opportunity to become an adult in the church. So, up until right now, I have considered you a child in the church, which is great. Children are wonderful. A lot of the stuff that we do at Zion is to aim at how we take care of and how we cherish the children that God has given to our care. We serve children, we provide for children. But at some point in time, we stop being a little child and we begin to grow into an adult. Adults, I've got some expectations of them. I want the adults in my congregation to know some stuff, to have a solid foundation, but also to be ready to serve. And so that's one of the things we're doing in confirmation, is we're aiming to grow in the faith, to grow in our knowledge and grow in our ability to live that out. That's what confirmation's about. Here's some stuff that we do as a typical lesson for confirmation. If you're doing all of this via video, it might be a little bit different for you, but these are some of the core things that we do. We learn the basic teachings of the faith. So inside Luther's Small Catechism, which is the little handbook that we use to guide us through things that are important, there are what we call 6 chief parts. Some of that stuff's gonna be familiar to you. The Apostles' Creed, the Lord's Prayer, stuff that we know about the 10 Commandments, and there's more. Those are the core teachings of the faith. But because, like I said, we aren't here just to gain information, but also to build relationships, an important part of confirmation is that you as a student are doing this with a family member. It's important to me that whoever's looking at me on the other side of this video, it's not just one person staring at the screen, but maybe you, mom, you, dad, you and an older sibling. It's important to me that your family is a part of this. And I pray that when you look back at this years and years from now, that you think, yeah, that was a cool thing for us to be able to have important conversations. Stuff that maybe we always knew was true, but we never had those conversations with one another. So we're aiming to do this together as a family. You and your little family, and then all of us together as a big church family. Another thing we're going to aim to do in confirmation is we're going to become better readers of the Bible. Now, maybe I'm wrong about this, but my guess is that no one who's watching this video right now has ever read the Bible from the beginning of Genesis all the way through to the end of Revelation. And I think that's kind of, well, first of all, it's understandable because it's a long book and some parts are boring. Don't tell anyone I said that. But also, in addition to it being difficult, sometimes we feel like we're just inadequate to the task. We don't exactly have the correct tools in order to handle the problem. That's one of the things we're going to do in confirmation. So every night or every one of these lessons, we'll spend some time looking at those core teachings of the faith that you see right there. Bullet 1, Lord's Prayer, Apostles' Creed, 10 Commandments, baptism, communion, all that kind of stuff. We'll spend some time doing that. You'll spend some time working together as a family, seeing how those teachings are from the Bible, looking up Bible verses to see how that goes. But then we'll take a few minutes to learn a little bit better how to read the Bible. And we'll spend time in some core areas of the Bible. So, typical confirmation lesson, whether you're inside the house or in your house, there'll be time when I'm teaching, when I'm providing you with information that I want you to know, sort of the core stuff, the bottom layer, the kind of stuff that we build on, stuff that we need to have in common, stuff that we both need to know. You'll spend some time working alone as a family group. You'll take that teaching that I've just provided and then look through Bible verses to see that in action. That's an important thing. So the first part is typically what I call class. The second part is what I typically call huddle. So huddle is when you gather together as your little small group and you make that work. And then you'll spend a little bit of time listening to me talk about how to read the Bible better, and then I'll set you free to do a little bit of work in the journaling section. We do provide what we call a family gathering. It's a little half sheet of paper. I'm sure if you're doing this solely online, you'll be sent those. It's kind of a memory verse, an opportunity to do a little bit of a devotion, and it just helps us make sure that you're sticking with us as we go along together. Here's the stuff that you need. You need a Bible, you need a catechism, and you need that beautiful confirmation packet. Those are the books that you need. That should be all you need. Your journaling space is provided inside that book, the questions we ask, all that. So let's begin. You should be on a page of your workbook that says Unit 1.1, first article, God the Father. I think it's page 7 inside your workbook. Ready? Here we go. Pen or pencil in hand, probably not crayon. Pen or pencil in hand, and here we are. Let's make sure we've got some definitions shared. Do you know what a creed is? I know you know some creeds, but do you know what a creed is? Did you know that it's not just churches that use creeds? Some organizations have creeds. You should ask your parents if they know any other kinds of organizations that have a creed. Here's my definition of what a creed is. A creed is a statement of faith. It's a statement of what we believe. That's what a creed is. So on the top of that sheet under class where it says creed, you should have written down something like this. Creed is a statement of faith. Creed is a statement of what I believe. Here's another question. You see it on your screen. What 3 creeds do we regularly use in worship? Do you know the answer to that? Usually this is meant to trick people, to have them slip up, but I'm actually recording this the week after we used one of our creeds. We only use it one time for the whole year. Do you know what the 3 creeds are? Maybe you do. We often use the Apostles' Creed. We often use the Nicene Creed. And once a year, we use a creed called the Athanasian Creed. That's a super long one we just did this past weekend. Here's another question. Do you know when we use those creeds? Any guesses? How long should I wait for you to have this answer? Checking my watch. All right. You don't know, do you? We typically use the Athanasian Creed one time per year, Trinity weekend. So setting that one aside, when do we use the Apostles' Creed and when do we use the Nicene Creed? Here's the simple explanation of how we use those at Zion. When we have communion or communion service, we typically use the Nicene Creed. Maybe not 100% of the time, but pretty close. When we don't have communion, we typically use the Apostles' Creed. Why do we split it that way? I'm not sure there's a great reason for it. It's just because those are the two primary creeds of the church. We want to use them often. And since in normal days we have communion about half the time, we figured that was a good way to make sure that we use both. We also, you might be aware, we also use the Apostles' Creed at baptisms. So even if it was a communion weekend, but there was a baptism in the service, the creed that we walk through during that rite of baptism is the Apostles' Creed. All right. So on your sheet, you should be dropping down from the section that says Creed to the section that says Trinity. And I want you taking notes. So the kind of stuff that you should have written down next to Creed, based on the last slide that we were on together, is that a creed is a statement of belief. It says what I believe. It's a statement of belief. Then I would have written down what our three creeds are: Nicene Creed, Apostles' Creed, Athanasian Creed, and when we use them. Typically use the Nicene Creed for communion services. We use the Athanasian Creed one time per year on Trinity weekend, and we use the Apostles' Creed whenever there's not communion or at baptisms. That's what you should have down. All right. Next thing, I want to make sure that you and I have a shared sense of what this means. What do we mean when we say that God is a Trinity or the Trinity? I'm sure you've heard that word before. Maybe you know people named Trinity. Maybe you've seen churches named Trinity. You've heard us say the word Trinity in church, but do you know what we mean by it? Pretty simple, really. Well, remarkably not simple that it exists, but simple to know what we mean. What we mean by the word Trinity is that God has three distinct persons. That's the tri part of Trinity, like a triple. Three distinct persons: Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's not like Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are just three different personalities of God, depending on how he feels when he wants to show up. No, God is three distinct persons: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And yet, the Bible teaches us that even though there are three distinct persons, that they are one God. That's the NIT part, NITY part of the word Trinity. So it's a triple unity. See that word unity in there? Two words smushed together, triple unity. Three persons, one God. All right. The beginning of our confirmation journey this year starts with the first article of the Apostles' Creed. When I use the word article to talk about the creed, I don't mean a, an, and the. I mean section or paragraph. So maybe you've noticed before when you look at the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed that there are three different sections. The first section is about God the Father. The second section is about God the Son. The third section is about God the Holy Spirit. So we're going to be talking about the first article. We've moved on your notebook page to the section called First Article. And by that, I'd want you to have something written down like this. The first article is the first paragraph of the creed. It's about God the Father and his work of creation. That's what I want you to have written down. I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. That's the first article. That's what we're talking about right now. Here are some other important things that I want you to write down in the space I provided you next to the words first article. I want you to write down what you see right here on the page. Because God is the creator and because I'm a part of his creation, then we're going to talk about what it means to be a steward. Do you see that word on your page, stewardship? Do you know what it means to be a steward? Here are the core things we believe from the first article. I'm not the creator of the world, and neither are you. God is, which makes you and me a part of God's creation. That's the fundamental distinction that I want you to hear today. You aren't God. Neither am I. Which means there's someone way above us in terms of what's most important in the world. It's not me. It's not you. It's God. He's the creator. I'm a part of his creation. Hey, let me ask you to do something real quick. This isn't really on your page, so I need you to scribble this down as you hear. I'm going to give you a list, just a list of words. I want you to write all these words down. You ready? Frog, rock, soul, angel, demon, bread, God, people. All right, you've got a list of words. Now what I want you to do is I want you to tell me how you would split that list of words into two important categories. What are the categories? What do you think they are? I'm not going to tell you until you try. Take that list of words and split them. How do you think the split should go? You can pause the video for a second and do it. All right, if you took your time, here's what I'm betting you did. I'm betting you made a list of things that are tangible, touchable. I can't remember the whole list I gave you. Rock, frog, bread, people. And I bet you made that one category. Another category had stuff like God, soul, angel, demon. It's not right. You want to know what the two categories really are? Here they are. God in one category and everything else in the other category. Don't you see what's on the screen here? Didn't you hear what I said? Primary distinction in the world is this. God is the creator. Everything else is not. Everything else is created. So, because we know that God is the big dog, because we know he's the boss, because we know he's the glorious one, and you and I are part of his creation, we're going to talk now about what it means to be a steward. Here's what I want you to write down on that piece of paper right next to the word stewardship. A steward takes care of something that does not belong to her or him. Steward is anyone who says, hey, this isn't mine, but I've been given the job of watching it. Like, I'm the one who's responsible. I'm the one who's in charge. You already heard me say this 3 times, still true. Since God's the creator, and you aren't, and I'm not, every part of our life is stewardship. Every single part of our life is how we take care of things that do not belong to us. Now, I know you think you got stuff. I think I got stuff. I got some money, got some possessions, got some relationships. Here's one of the tricks to life. Now that you're becoming an adult and in part of confirmation, I'm feeling like you're ready to learn this. All that stuff that you think you got ain't actually yours. It's God's. And the sooner that you and I come to grips with that everything we have is from him and through him, then all of a sudden our life starts to make more sense. Not about how I gain more stuff or how I use my stuff. It's about how I honor God through my work of stewardship. All right, now what I want you to do is I want you to pause this video and I want you to work through the section on your sheet that says huddle. So what we're primarily doing today is this. I've given you a list of words that we use to describe God. Some of the words are really easy. Some of the words are not easy at all. So this section is both meant to be something that some of them are going to be ones that you look up and you go, yeah, I totally know what that means. Some of them are going to be ones that you look up and go, what? So what I've done is, along with the word, I've given you a Bible verse that I think explains what that word means a little bit. So what I want you to do right now is pause the video and work your way through that huddle section. Work your way through the terms and the Bible verses. And after each one, I want you to write in your own words what you think that word means. Don't just quote the Bible verse. Say, what does the word mean? I'll give you one example. I'm looking about halfway down the list. Do you see the word omniscient? You familiar with that word? Omniscient means that God is all-knowing. And from my memory of Psalm 139, it talks about how God already knows my inner thoughts. He knows the inside of my person. He knows everything. So next to that one, I'd write down that God is all-knowing. Got it? I gave you one of the hard ones. You should thank me. You're welcome to write a little card or just say a thank you prayer to God for me. I know you feel that way. All right, so here's time. Pause the video, do the huddle section. When you come back, it's going to be time to start working our way through our journaling section. So pause video, come back when you're ready. All right, time to do journaling. So the next page inside your workbook, you see confirmation journaling. It says week 1 creation. When we do journaling sections, what we try to do is we try to give you an idea of how to read the Bible better, and then you jump into it. So most of the time when we do these journaling sections, I'm going to talk for maybe 5 minutes, maybe a few more, maybe a few less. But the journaling section is really about you having your nose in the Bible and your pen on paper. In the time of class that we're journaling, I want you to write things down on this piece of paper. The only wrong answer for journaling is a blank. Got it? The reason why we started using this journaling section, one, was to teach you some core ideas about how to read the Bible, what the Bible teaches us and tells us about God and about us, but also because it gives us an opportunity to hear from you. I want you to do that when you're journaling. I don't want you to just look for 2-word answers. I'm looking for how you're thinking. That's what I want to hear. So please do that. The beginning of our journaling this year is about the beginning of the world. It's about the beginning of the book of Genesis. Did you know that the word Genesis actually means beginning? So during your journaling section for today, you're going to be asked to write down what you remember about creation, the days of creation. Then you're going to start looking through some of the things that God does with people, the conversations he has, the things that he makes. But the big idea, along with learning or being reminded of what God did in creation, the big idea for today is that when you and I read the Bible, most of the time, we should read it in bigger chunks than we're accustomed to. You probably knew this already because you're smart, but did you know that the Bible wasn't written in chapters and verses? So like John never sat down and thought to himself, you know what? I think I'm going to write John 3:16 today. It's going to be a great verse. People are going to love it. No, the Bible wasn't written in chapters and verses. That was added just within the last few hundred years to help research, to help people be able to open it up and find stuff. The Bible was written like any book's written, in big chunks. So one of the problems that you and I often face as students of the Bible, one of the reasons why the Bible is sometimes confusing for us is because we look at it in too narrow of a way. We try to look at just one little verse and think, what does this verse mean? You shouldn't do that very often. What you should do is you should read a big chunk of it. And then if you have questions about individual verses, then you can back up and take a look at them. So that's the big idea for today. Context. That means what's happening around this tiny thing you're looking at. That's the context. So When you're reading the Bible, read big chunks. Then if you need to, back up and look at little verses. So now, take some time in that journaling section. My encouragement to you is to do it all in one fell swoop. So spend 10, 15 minutes doing this so that you don't fall behind. Thanks for checking in. Check out the other videos. Have a great day.